Hello everyone, this is Caroline, aka the Introverted Misfit, here to give you another video where I share my life experiences from the perspective of an introverted woman who happens to be autistic, aka an introverted misfit. So I'm going to try to keep this video a little on the shorter side, we'll say less than 15 minutes, because I like to save my really long and in-depth conversations for my podcast, the Introverted Misfit podcast, which you can find linked in the description of this video. But ever since starting my online coaching business, I've been in the online autism space for a few months now and have really gotten engulfed in it just from being on Instagram, being on Threads, and even here on YouTube and also Facebook some as well. And I've been hearing a lot of talk about this term late diagnosed autism, which is that's a term that I had never heard of before actually being in the online space. But essentially what being late diagnosed autistic is, for whatever reason, the signs of autism that are normally found in kids earlier on, so like 3 or 4, they were missed in you. Either people just overlooked them or you masked them very well. And so you did not get diagnosed with autism until much later on in life, way after childhood. So some people are late diagnosed when they're teenagers, like myself. I was diagnosed when I was about 17, when I was in high school. Some people go nearly half their lives before they're diagnosed. So I once talked to someone online who wasn't diagnosed until they were 55. So, I've been seeing a lot of people put up these videos talking about their experience with being late diagnosed, but because it does come with its own unique challenges versus if you've always known that you're autistic, and you can learn to cope with that as you grow and as you are trying to fit in and find your circle, your social circle. So it does come with its own unique challenges. But what I have not seen is a video of someone talking about this specific intersection of being late diagnosed autistic and also Black and culturally homeless. Slight correction, I used the term culturally homeless, which I don't think is the right usage of the word here. Culturally homeless is referring to people whose culture of origin, so the culture that they were born into, doesn't match the present culture that they are living in. And to my knowledge, according to my research, that's more used if you come from a different country, you're an immigrant from a different country and you're living in a different culture. So, and you don't feel like you fit into either. So I think the term I need to use here is cultural estrangement, or being culturally estranged, which is the feeling of not fitting in with one's culture or society, or the feeling of being atypical, which according to Google, it can be caused by exposure to different cultural values, cultural norms, and cultural practices, like I was growing up in school. So I wanted to share this video to connect with those of you who may have had this experience too. If you have, definitely tell me your experience in the comments, because I would love to hear them. But I guess I wanted to kick off this conversation by just giving a few prerequisites. Not all Black people are the same. Not all autistic people are the same. We're all different. We have our own unique experiences. So this is just my experience. It might not be the experience of you or everyone else. It's just my experience. But I want to start off by just talking about the importance of class in this, or socioeconomic status in this discussion. So this is not unique to Black people. This is unique to this happens in every group of people, every race of people that you can imagine. Most groups of people, there is some sort of socioeconomic scale that people lie on. So there are middle class people, maybe there are upper middle class people who are really rich and really wealthy, and then people who are lower on the socioeconomic scale. And my family was middle class Black America. So I, just based off of that, there are already very stark differences between different class groups. So like, you'll find a completely different culture of music, language, experiences, jokes, leisure activities in people in lower socioeconomic status versus higher socioeconomic status. And that's no different in the Black community. So these cultural differences, the music that we listen to is often different. The entertainment that we consume is often very different because they're meant to speak to different experiences. The language, African American vernacular English is a real thing. The basic experiences, the clothes, the fashion sense, the fashion style that we often like, the way that we communicate, and even down to the family structure, which is a really big one in the Black community specifically. So I'm not sure what the exact statistic is now, but at least when I last checked, it was about 70% of Black American children are born into and raised in single parent homes. So I didn't grow up like that. My parents have been married for 40 years. In fact, their 40th wedding anniversary was just like 2 days ago. And that was not the experience that a lot of my Black peers in school had. So the cultures were already very different just based on class. And then you add on top of that race, and it's just like a whole other thing. So I found myself in this conundrum where I did not fit because of my middle class status, and then also, my middle class status and the fact that I did not fit in with the experiences of most of the Black kids in my school. They pretty much made it clear to me in very subtle and sometimes very overt ways that I did not fit in with them, and they were not shy about letting me know that. So I got the memo very quickly. They didn't want anything to do with me, most of them, because we just were so different. But because of my autism, I didn't know I had autism till I was 17, but I'll say because of my innate social and communication difficulties and abnormalities, I couldn't really fit in with the non-Black kids in my school either, even though my culture may have been a little bit closer to theirs. My experiences were I could relate to their experiences a little more. But I couldn't, it was hard. It was even hard for me to make friends with them because I just struggled so much with my social skills, my ability to hold a conversation, the way I carried myself, not picking up on social cues, taking things literally, which just kind of, now that I think back on it, ruined a lot of social interactions just based off of those subtle communication deficits that I had. I could not figure out how to make friends. So I really found myself kind of stuck in the middle. And as the name of my brand suggests, I really was a misfit. I was culturally homeless and just had a lot of trouble making friends. Now, I did have one or two friends during my high school years, but the problem was that I had social anxiety because of my autism, my social difficulties. And so when I was not with those one or two friends for that 1 hour class that we had together, I was basically hopeless. In fact, the only reason that I made those friends is because they approached me first and started talking to me first, and they weren't really thwarted by my kind of awkward personality, so we ended up being friends. But I was terrified of starting conversations with anyone. So if we were not in that 1 hour period, that 1 hour class, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would just sit by myself. My head was always in a book. I read so much. We used to have this AR point system in my school. I pretty much was off the charts for the AR test, the reading test that we could have, because I couldn't make any friends. I made all of my friends with books, basically, and the fictional characters in my books. I just read so much. So yeah, I was just kind of drifting out there in the wind. And speaking of my social anxiety, I eventually went to counseling for my social anxiety when I was in college. And to my surprise, my counselor actually thought that my social anxiety was so bad that she wanted to refer me to a psychiatrist to be medicated for it, which was very alarming to me. I mean, I knew that my social anxiety was bad because I had been living with it and living with the repercussions of it, but I just had never even thought that I would need to be medicated for it. But I guess it really was that bad, especially to a third party, a professional third party. So my past of being culturally homeless and not really fitting in with anyone, it led to almost a decade-long battle with low self-esteem, low confidence, of course, social anxiety, not knowing how to form and maintain relationships in my personal life and in my professional life. I found myself telling myself this limiting belief that, well, nobody's gonna like me. Nobody is gonna like my personality, because to me it seemed like nobody had really liked me all throughout my life. So I just assumed that nobody else would either, which just led to a deep fear of rejection. I also struggled with rejection sensitive dysphoria, RSD, which is described as an overreaction to either actual or perceived rejection. I had that for a long time. I mean, you could look at me the wrong way, or you could say something with the wrong tone, and I just thought people hated me, and I would just assume that they didn't want to talk to me, and I would never talk to them again. And it took a long time for me to come to this point where I'm at now, this point of finding myself and being confident in myself and my abilities and my good qualities, while also coming to a point of self-acceptance of my flaws, because everyone has flaws. Mine just happen to be with the way that I relate to people, and that's just something that I have to work on. But it's taken so long to get to this point, but it has been so worth it. And so I wanted to share with those of you who may have been or may be suffering with the repercussions of going a lifetime of being culturally homeless, being a misfit, not really fitting in with anyone. I wanted to share with you the primary realization that I've come to at this point in my life. And that is, stop trying to fit in with people who you quote unquote should fit in with, right? Stop trying to fit into this stereotype that people are putting on you. If you just don't fit in with it, stop worrying so much about what what race of people who you talk to are, who you want your friends to be, and you stop getting so bent out of shape because you don't fit in with what your culture says is cool and says you're supposed to fit in. Fit in with people who fit in with you and your morals and your values, and who are willing to accept you for who you are and understand you and your experiences. Find people who you like and who like you back. Race aside, disorder aside, that's the realization that's the mindset that has really just changed my entire life. I no longer walk around with fear that somebody won't like me. I don't walk around with the fear that, well, the black kids in my past didn't like me, so probably this black person is not going to like me either. I don't even go into social interactions like that anymore. I go in with a positive attitude, meet people, let them get to know me, I get to know them. And if we don't end up being compatible, if we never talk to each other again, it's fine. There are other people out there who are white, black, Asian, different cultures of black, maybe not African American, who are just like you. And you can find them. You just have to let go of this idea that you have to constantly be trying to fit in with people who you just simply don't fit in with. So I hope that this piece of advice helps you in your journey of self-discovery and becoming more socially confident. And if you're looking for somebody who can guide you along that journey of self-confidence and social confidence while still being yourself, I do have my coaching services, which you can find on my website, theintrovertedmisfit.com. I specifically offer coaching to shy, awkward, and of course, if you happen to be autistic introverts. So people who are naturally quiet, naturally more introspective, but they also are a little bit shy or socially anxious and struggle with their social skills. I help those introverts become socially confident introverts while still taking care of their needs as an introvert, and if you're autistic, as an autistic person. So again, you can check out my coaching services on my website, theintrovertedmisfit.com, or you can find all of those links in the description of this video. And please make sure to like this video. And again, if you have a similar experience, or maybe you have a slightly different experience, maybe you come from a slightly different background than me, but you still kind of relate to what I'm saying, I love to hear your perspective. So definitely leave your experiences in the comments so I can read through them. I will be responding to all of them. And yeah, thanks for listening and have a great day.